evening and welcome to ILTV's Israel Weekly. I'm Aaron Porras, and with me today to discuss the latest diplomatic and political developments are former journalist, Likud party member and Knesset member candidate Naftali Ben-Simon, and Dr. Michael Wise, a physicist and expert on mathematical modeling techniques. This evening, our main topics include the first official meeting between Presidents Mahmoud Abbas and Donald Trump, and the election of Ismail Haniyeh as the new head of Hamas. But for our first story, we'll be focusing on Israeli-German relations, as can be analyzed through the recently unfolding events between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Germany's foreign minister and president. Prime Minister Netanyahu recently canceled his meetings with Germany's foreign minister, Sigmar Gabriel, after Gabriel met with left-wing human rights groups Breaking the Silence and B'Tselem, both of which Israel deems as subversive.
היחסים שלנו עם גרמניה איתנים והם חשובים והם גם יימשכו כך. המדיניות שלי היא ברורה, לא להיפגש עם דיפלומטים שמבקרים בישראל ונפגשים עם ארגונים שמכפישים את חיילי צה"ל ומבקשים להעמיד לדין את החיילים שלנו כפושעי מלחמה. אותם דיפלומטים לא יעלו על דעתם לעשות את זה בארצות הברית או בבריטניה או בשום מקום אחר. החיילים שלנו הם הבסיס לקיומנו. הם שומרים עלינו ואנחנו נשמור עליהם.
Es gab Stimmen, die mir nahelegen wollten, dass jetzt der falsche Zeitpunkt für eine Reise nach Israel sei. Mindestens Verschiebung, wenn nicht Absage, schien für den einen oder anderen in den letzten Tagen die eher angemessenere Haltung zu sein. Ich habe mir das angehört und wenn man sich anhört, kommt man auf die Idee, vielleicht wäre das sogar die einfachere Lösung gewesen. Ich habe das anders entschieden, das sehen Sie. Nicht, weil ich die Ausladung des deutschen Außenministers durch Ihren Ministerpräsidenten richtig finde, sondern weil ich glaube, es entspräche nicht meiner Verantwortung, die Beziehungen unserer beiden Staaten tiefer in eine Sackgasse geraten zu lassen, an deren Ende, davon bin ich überzeugt, alle Seiten viel verloren hätten.
So for my first question, Naftali, I'm going to actually start with you. How are German-Israeli relations, how have they been affected since this meeting, since this breakdown, you could say, because on the one hand, all the politicians involved are going on this kind of, tour of, oh no, everything is fine, but then at the same time, President Steinmeier did not meet with any of these NGOs.
Yeah. Well, I would say in the political level, the relationship between Israel and Germany are in a very nervous track. And the foreign minister showed that, and even Prime Minister Netanyahu. And this is a very obvious sign that something wrong is going on the political track. But I will make the distinction, and I will say that on the same time, that the relationship between Israel and Germany are very strong and are much deeper than people can believe. This is maybe the best ally that we have in Europe. Yeah. And nobody will tell you the range of the military activity or support or supply that we have between us and Germany. But yes, and sometimes between friends we have some political differences, arguments, and I'm sure that we will correct it in a way, because Germany and Israel, their relationship are much more important than any differences or political conclusions or something like that.
I see. Dr. Wise?
I think it's very important that the Prime Minister, Netanyahu, stood up for Israel and stood up for the integrity and the morality of the IDF, of the Israel Defense Forces. It may be kind of outrageous that the foreign minister of an ally should come to Israel and sit down and meet with groups that are spreading basically falsehoods and lies about the morality of Israel's defense. I think we saw that the president of Israel explained that Israel is a democracy and that all kinds of groups are entitled to diverse opinions, which is proper. But as we say, one doesn't wash one's laundry in public. And the fact that groups such as B'Tselem and breaking the silence have been more and more aggressive in the States, at least, going to college campuses, appearing at the UN, and accusing the Israel army of committing atrocities is something that cannot be ignored.
Yeah, I would like to add something to Mike.
Please.
And to say that it's a very insulting habit that European leaders are taking for granted the relationship with Israel, that they can do whatever they want. There is kind of a political protocol, diplomatic protocol. You cannot meet. We will never meet a group anti-France or Germany or something like that in Europe and will approve it, or we say, yes, you are right in your battle. And I think with breaking the silence, the foreign minister of Germany made a huge mistake.
So, I mean, that brings me to my next question. You know, if I may play devil's advocate,
yeah.
Why would the Prime Minister be so concerned about what is ultimately just a meeting between a German, diplomat and a rights group, you could call it?
Because they are building a narrative. And, Iran, to fight against the narrative, you need more than an army. Sometimes it's much deeper, because many groups like the BDS, like the left wing in Europe, in United States, in the campus in the United States, in the universities, they are building the narrative, and breaking the silence are bringing them all what they need for building the narrative. So it's not a question of facts. If it was facts, it's okay. Let's argue and see. But narrative, it's very hard, and this is the most dangerous thing to Israel.
I mean, so again, playing devil's advocate, doesn't an outright ban on a foreign minister meeting with these groups make Netanyahu seem weaker in a sense? Doesn't it legitimize B'Tselem and breaking the silence's arguments?
I don't know. I think to delegitimize those groups are the right policy of the Israel government, and we should fight them in every corner of the world. And if they want to change something in Israel, you are most welcome, but not in UN, not in Al Jazeera station, TV station, and not with Hamas members that they want the destruction of Israel. This is something unacceptable.
I think Netanyahu didn't put a ban in place. He simply said, if you want to meet with these people who we do not consider to be constructive elements in Israel's society, it's a free country, but I'm not going to sit down with you. I don't want to be put in that same basket.
All right. Well, and with that, I think we'll move on to our next subject. Our second story tonight, we move to Gaza, where the internationally recognized terror organization Hamas has just elected a new ruler, Ismail Haniyeh, who has been made the new head of the organization which rules over the Gaza Strip, taking over for Khalid Mashal after Mashal finished his second term as the party head, which was the term limit that Hamas has. Now, speaking after the election was called, Haniyeh spoke about what many are calling Hamas's new amendments to its charter, which seemingly make the terrorist group more moderate. Take a look.
شيء كثير مهم جدا انه كمان يعرف الجميع بانه هذه الوثيقه لم تاتي بناء على ضغوطات من اي طرف كان، بقدر ما انها نتاج المطابخ المتعدده داخل هذه الحركه خلال ال4 سنوات الماضيه، واللي كان اليوم هو يوم الاشهار عنها والاعلان بهذا الوضوح وبهذه السعه وبهذا الاتساع اللي احنا شفناه.
The intimation is that Hamas now accepts the state of Israel. Great news, right? Well, except for one small detail. This is a complete distortion of the truth. The new Hamas document says that Israel has no right to exist. It says every inch of our land belongs to the Palestinians. It says there is no acceptable solution other than to remove Israel. So why does Hamas say there's a consensus for a smaller Palestinian state now? In order to destroy Israel later. They want to use their state to destroy our state.
Now, many are speculating, such as the Prime Minister just did, that this document does absolutely nothing to curtail Hamas's intentions and their actions. It is just kind of, a front to make them seem more moderate when it's different bow but same contents. That being said, if Hamas is pushing even a baby step towards a peace process, shouldn't we be taking that seriously?
I think it doesn't take much effort to go on Google and read the original Hamas protocol and to read the protocol of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. And they all state very clearly right up front that they do not recognize the right of Israel to exist. Okay? And their mission and their agenda is to destroy the Jewish state. There's nothing in the statement made by Haniya and by the Hamas in the last several days to indicate that they are willing to recognize the right of a Jewish state to exist in the Middle East. Okay? It's the furthest thing removed. They say go back to the 1967 borders with Jerusalem as the capital of a Palestinian state, and we'll continue from there, which is exactly what...
I mean, that was basically 2008, you know, that was pretty much every basis for every peace plan since 1967.
Correct. But, you know, Netanyahu has made it very clear, ever since his speech in Bar Ilan in 2009, that he's willing to live with 2 states for 2 peoples, but there are 5 simple red lines. The first red line was that the other state, the Palestinian state, recognized Israel as a Jewish state. Second, that the Jerusalem is unified capital. Third, that there are secure borders. Fourth, it should be an unarmed state, a disarmed state. And fifth, that the Palestinian so-called refugee problem be resolved outside of Israel. And he has not pulled back from that position. In fact, when he was at the White House, we did not hear Trump really talk about 2 states. And recently, when Trump announced he's coming to Israel, he didn't talk about 2 states. He talked about a peace deal, peace and prosperity. Everybody's in favor of peace and prosperity.
Well, if to be a little bit humoristic, you know, sometimes in politics we have to, from time to time, to be
inject a little
bit.
Yeah.
Hamas, the new Hamas protocol is the right of Hamas to exist, because in every corner of the world, Hamas become a problem for the Palestinians, a problem for Israel, a problem for Arab states, a worldwide problem. I think only a few countries still recognize Hamas, but they cannot change because their all budget, money, weapon, everything comes from Iran, from Hezbollah, from other Islamic group. Who can deal with such a military group who think that they can destroy Israel? Well, you must be a lunatic or something very extreme, or you took something very interesting in your mind to think that you can fight against Israel. What? 2008, 2012, 2014, all the 3 operations that Israel really fight with its severe measures, not to harm very much the population of Hamas. But Hamas didn't understand the message, and they're looking for another one.
I believe on their television they say they won.
They won, and they still live the lie, but electricity they don't have, food they don't have. They are threatening their own people. There are really a group of people that I hope one day, if we will talk about kind of normalization between Israel and the Palestinian, Hamas is not part of the game.
So then again, you know, with this new election, with Ismail Haniyeh now being the president, will there be a different Hamas, or is this...
If Hamas wanted to impress the world, impress the Trump administration, impress Israel, they could very simply say that the funds that they're getting to purchase cement, the cement will be used for building and rebuilding constructively in Gaza, and not building tunnels which presumably would have a military infiltration. And they wouldn't be busy building missile factories and potentially exporting missiles to other terrorist groups around the world. I mean, if Hamas has a new face, let them back it up with deeds and with commitments, with financial consequence.
All right. Final thoughts on this subject. How do we expect Hania to be dealing with Abbas? Do we see a unity government between Fatah and Hamas in the future?
As you saw last week, President Trump really embraced Abu Mazen and gave him all the importance of the Palestinian leader, the legitimate Palestinian leader, which means that he doesn't recognize Hamas. But this is good for Washington. In the field, Abu Mazen should visit Hamas, should visit Gaza, should announce that Gaza is a part of what we call the Palestinian territories. Until then, if it will not happen, for me, it will be not 2 states, it's 3 states, and we cannot live with 3 states.
Look, Abu Mazen's credibility, never mind the fact that he dare not visit Gaza. He remembers quite well that Hamas threw so many Fatah operatives off roofs in Gaza. He's not visiting Gaza, there's no question. B, there are very few places in Yehuda and Shomron in the West Bank that Abu Mazen can visit either, right? His term expired
8 years ago.
8 years ago, okay? He must know why he hasn't called for elections.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He doesn't represent anybody, and he walks into the White House as if he's the benighted president of the Palestinian people. We know that's just so far from the truth.
All right, well, that actually brings us to our final topic of the night. United States President Donald Trump has just hosted his Palestinian Authority counterpart, President Mahmoud Abbas. Of course, one of the main subjects of discussion was the Middle East peace process, and everyone involved has a preferred way to solve the crisis. But Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu still hold very different opinions on what that method entails.
لقد آن الأوان أن تنهي إسرائيل احتلالها لأرضنا وشعبنا. بعد 50 سنة من الاحتلال، نحن الشعب الوحيد الذي بقي في هذا العالم تحت الاحتلال، ولذلك نريد أن نحصل على حريتنا وعلى كرامتنا وعلى حقنا في تقرير المصير، وأن تعترف إسرائيل بدولة فلسطين كما نحن نعترف بدولة إسرائيل. أؤكد لكم يا فخامة الرئيس أننا نربي أطفالنا وأحفادنا وأولادنا على ثقافة السلام، وأننا نسعى ليعيشوا بأمن وحرية وسلام مثل باقي أطفال العالم هم والأطفال الإسرائيليون.
I heard President Abbas yesterday say that Palestinians teach their children peace. That's unfortunately not true. They name their schools after mass murderers of Israelis, and they pay terrorists. But I hope that it's possible to achieve a change and to pursue a genuine peace. This is something Israel is always ready for. I'm always ready for a genuine peace.
So, first off, how correct is the Prime Minister's assumption that Abbas and the Palestinian Authority is paying terrorists, that they're inciting to violence continuously to this day?
Well, it's quite clear, and it's admitted by everyone, that a significant portion of the budget of the Palestinian Authority is used to pay the terrorists and the families of terrorists. There was a story today by a Palestinian spokesman not denying that fact, but saying that helps promote peace. It wasn't exactly clear what was in his mind, but honoring and encouraging terrorism is not a method of promoting peace in any part of the world.
It's really a tragedy, and it's so sad to see the leader of the Palestinians are talking in 3 different languages, and it depends where he stay. When he's in Washington, he said to the President Trump that the Palestinian children, talking all day about peace. In United Nations, he blamed Israel that we killed children every day, just like that. And in the Palestinian Authority, he embrace and contribute and build buildings on the name of shahidim or terrorists. So it was just a simple fact it should take. Call Prime Minister Netanyahu without a precondition negotiation. Let's have a sit with President Trump. He's coming on May 22nd. Let's have a meeting between us. It will impress everyone in the world. Sometimes you don't need to bring the whole meal. Just bring a sign. This is a good sign. Don't talk about for the ears of the Western people and differently for the Eastern people. So please, if you are the leader of the Palestinian and you think that you are brave enough, just make a declaration that you want to meet Prime Minister Netanyahu.
So, I mean, if I take the reverse of that, should Netanyahu have even brought that up into focus, or should he just have addressed that privately in a meeting between Abbas and Trump? And how does Trump, you know, in the United States White House administration fit in to this peace process if they're paying terrorists the whole time?
Well, you know, we can discuss it day after days, or for paying terrorists. For it's we need kind of now no acts of you know, formulas for peace, but symbols, signs, something to change the atmosphere. The two leaders are not meeting with each other. And for many years, there is nothing, any kind of sign that we can say that we and the Palestinians are talking or thinking about any kind of peace. So in my opinion, this visit can be a symbolic visit if the two leaders will do something extraordinary.
See, the resolution of what Abu Mazen referred to as the, quote, occupation, can be reached in ways other than the so-called two-state solution. If one listens very carefully to what Trump said, he said, there's a deal to be made here. It's not that difficult. And the objective is peace and prosperity.
Well, that could just be Trump pontificating.
Well, Trump pontificates, but so far he's been delivering. Okay? He's very early into his, I don't know if it's day number 120 or something, but peace and prosperity can be reached in many ways other than creating what will most probably become a terrorist state anywhere on the West Bank. I think everybody knows that from the experience in Gaza and the experience in Lebanon, that one doesn't walk away and expect lovely results. And there are many people who are exploring alternatives where the Arabs who are resident on the West Bank can have nice lives. A recent survey indicated that 55% of the Israeli Arabs, guess what, were proud to be Israelis. There have been other surveys which indicate that the Arabs living in Jerusalem, if there were to be a division of the city, almost unanimously would prefer to be on the Israel side of that dividing line.
So where do all the clashes that we hear about, you know, in East Jerusalem every other day, where do they come from these people who...
You know, we are coming from the television as a former journalist in Israeli television. So you have one incident here, one incident there, 10 seconds here, 1 minute there, but you create the narrative, and the narrative is that there is a brutal life in the Palestinian area or in East Jerusalem, in the West Bank. As Michael mentioned, I can tell you that the GNP of the Palestinians is much higher than Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and even Egypt. So we couldn't live much better that we are living today, even much better, even in Gaza.
Right.
But we need some leaders, and we don't have.
All right, well, I hope they show their faces soon.
I hope so.
And unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today for this week's edition of ILTV Weekly. Thanks again to our guests, Naftali Ben-Simon and Dr. Michael Wise, for for coming in, and thanks to all of you at home tuning in. See you next week, and shalom from Israel.